Bonjour à tous. On va démarrer cette deuxième session. Je vais essayer de parler plus fort parce qu'apparemment il y a du bruit dans la salle. Ceux qui veulent assister à la session, si vous pouvez vous installer, et les autres, si vous pouvez faire un peu de moins de bruit, ce serait agréable pour les intervenants. Merci beaucoup. So welcome. Keep your discussions for the stage, please. We'll have many things to discuss today. So this session will be in English, and we'll be discussing the positive socio-economic and environmental impacts of digital innovation in energy. This is a very long title for this discussion that will be very passionate, and how to identify, quantify, multiply them. First of all, I will introduce the fact that we are here post the celebration of the Digital Energy Challenge that you have been players of here. What is it? Digital Energy Challenge is an annual call for projects aiming to support the development of digital solutions for access to energy, transformation to renewable energy, improving performance of African operators in energy, and it's financed by European Union and organized by AFD. First of all, we have some of the winners of the challenge in the room that will be discussing with Christian in the second part of the panel, and in the first part we'll be discussing with our guests and speakers here. First of all, can you please give us a short introduction of yourself, like 2 minutes each, of what you do and how you're involved in this subject, please? Let's start with Boel.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I can hear you.
My name is Boel. I'm the head of program of Make Sense Africa. Make Sense Africa is an incubator based in Senegal. We had programs in several countries, Ivory Coast, Niger, Mali, etc. We support impact entrepreneurs with technical and financial programs. And I'm so glad to be here today to talk about impact because it's our main activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Boel. Hélène, maybe you can, I'll start with the ladies, of course. I think we can hear you.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, my name is Hélène Demat. I launched an impact fund named Gaia Impact Fund 6 years ago. So we invest in startups and companies that are in the renewable energy sector, so mainly giving access to energy in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and also around tech and productive uses of energy.
Okay, thank you, Hélène. Romain?
Hello, hello. Ouais?
Yes, we can hear you.
Nice to be with you. My name is Romain Cress, working for GRS-NGO. GRS-NGO is working in the field of access to energy and energy efficiency in Africa, both also in Asia. And it's very nice to come back here. After 3 years, we were here for a social business camp from French Development Agency with a project in Mali, Greenpeace Africa. Okay. The company is now created and working on progress. So it's very, it's a pleasure to come back.
Okay, thank you. Marion.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Marion, and I'm working as a product manager at Kairos. Kairos is a French startup that is specialized in producing data based on geospatial data and algorithm, mainly satellite data, but lots of other stuff involved there. And the data we generate aimed at helping decision makers from both the public sphere and private entities to make better, more informed decisions, particularly toward climate transition.
Thank you. And last but not least, Samuel.
Hi everybody. So I'm Samuel Montero. I'm ESG and Impact Manager at Energisez-vous et Partenaires. INP is an impact investor focusing on supporting African SMEs. So we are a generalist fund that includes supporting companies in access to energy, but we also support several sectors, and we focus both in SMEs and in sub-Saharan Africa only. Thanks.
Thank you. And my name is Marlene Scotto, and I'm a communication consultant, and I lead an advertising agency that is going towards Africa. And I will be working with someone who already disappeared, and the deal was if he disappears, I just stop the stage. He's here. He's trying to read
I just wanted to point out that EAP, along with the technical assistance of Gaia, is in charge of the digital energy challenge. And program.
Okay. By the way, have you guys already collaborate together, Marion, or this is the first a part of you two? You two? Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so this will be a conversation. So I do encourage any discussions between you guys. So please don't just talk your speech. Please just have. We have 1 hour, so we have plenty of time to discuss anything. Okay. So the first questions will be for Marion and Romain. And the first questions are targeting the solutions allowed to identify and quantify impact in energy. So what can digital tools bring to impact measurement methods first, and then in the African context, what are the challenges of measuring impacts with digital tools? Is it okay with you?
Okay, thank you. So maybe answering the first question about how to measure the impact based on digital tools. The focus, I think, is making sure that we move from intention to concrete action, and that's what measuring impact is all about. And this means several steps. First, you need to measure, to understand what's the impact of any economical activity on the environment and socio-economic conditions. Then you need to set some targets to decide where you want to go, limiting the impact on the environment, improving your positive impact on socio-economic conditions locally. And then you need to continuously monitor how you reach those targets. And that's where digital tools are really important, especially for us. We are working a lot on the environmental impact, but I think the same goes for socio-economic impacts as well. It's really, if you're using digital tools, including satellites in our case and AI, you're improving the way you measure the impact with science-based methodologies, which means there's going to be a scientific approach to what is the impact and how we compare them from one company to another, from one specific impact to another. What is best? What is worse? How you compare those? That means science. You need science to really be able to compare. The second thing is, if you want to be credible when you set the targets, you need to involve third-party data and third-party companies or NGOs, whatever. That's exactly what we're doing. We are using data that is out there and intervening as a third party just to make them speak in a way, and so that people can share what they've been doing and make it transparent. And the third thing is ensuring continuous efforts and impacts in a positive way on the road toward your future goal. And that means that's where satellite and AI are so powerful, because you can have data that you don't have to ask the company or the local government or anybody to see what's going on, especially on environmental impact. You can see the infrastructures being built, you can see deforestation going on, etc., etc. The impact on biodiversity, we work a lot on that question, for example, or greenhouse gas emissions especially. And so that's the satellite part, it's really transparent and you can't hide things. And the AI part, big data, if you were looking at it by yourself, you can only look at one site and a small one. But if you have algorithms that handle the data for you, you can cover the entire planet every day with new data, which means you can cover very large-scale projects, very large-scale infrastructure. You have recurring, constant monitoring. Every day you know what's going on and what has changed from one day to another. So I think that's the third pillars of how digitalization can help. Now, before giving the mic, before I go too long, what is complex in Africa about this? I would say two things. One is not only specific to Africa, is that socio-economic, from my point of view, is harder to check using our methodologies than the environment, because the environment is really physical, so you will see if it's better or not. Socio-economic, everything can look good from the sky, and it doesn't mean it will serve the needs of the local population. What is specific to Africa or to developing countries in general, and Africa in particular, is very often we lack context data, especially when we want to attribute what we see to a specific company or a specific supply chain. So for example, we are working a lot on my product around forestry on imported deforestation, which is a hot topic brought on the stage by the European Union right now. And we've been working in Ivory Coast, for example, on cocoa production. It's really hard to tell who is producing that cocoa on that land, because we have no registry or whatever, like who owns this land, what is the place where it's going to, what is the connection, and everything needs to be built there. And maybe the lesson about this is digitalized tools, they work way better if everyone involved in the chain, including local authorities, they work hard to provide better data, because it's like a virtuous circle. Better data feeds better data. And I'll stop there.
And you do collaborate with the local authorities on the same?
So what we do is some authorities, they are already our clients, our customers. Okay. When they want to really, when there's political will to build such a system, we are going like way quicker, because they create the data that is lacking for us to attribute what we see, and we build the system for them. But only when as a customer relationship.
Okay, thank you, Marion, for the same. Romain, can you add on what Marion just shared with us?
Yeah, I would try to keep just a concrete example. You know, by NGO, of course, we need to measure effect, results, impact. So we implement digital tools, digital methodology to collect the data on the fields. But that's not something very specific. Everyone is doing that for the moment. But what is something very, very interesting in the last couple of years is development of all the digital platform, especially regarding energy. So, for example, if I take Mali, where we are working a lot, we are working in the rural area, delivering access to energy for productive use and also for domestic demand, household. Now, because of this energy platform, digital energy platform, we can monitor from the beginning by analyzing the situation and entering all parameters in this platform. What was the source of energy used by the household before? What were the costs? Which part of the income or expense it was? And after using renewable energy system, you know all this mechanism with pay-as-you-go solar products, we continue to measure during all the living lifespan of the material how those households or those productive users are using the system and how it is supporting them. So it takes time to measure impact. Okay, you can have a direct impact, but you have to measure the sustainability of this impact on the middle and long term. And to do it, one of our way to continue measure impact more and more in the future is also to create in those countries like social business. And I know that here at this meeting there are a lot of social entrepreneurs trying to develop their business. Those type of action created by NGO can be continued by social business, and we know that those social business will measure this sort of impact, not only for because they are paid for that, but also because they have to prove that what they do is really providing add value, and also dealing the relationship with their customers. And that's one way that I think it's progressing in the fact that we can measure this impact through digital platform.
Very interesting. And I can jump to the second question that will be, can you hear me? You hear me?
I don't remember the second question.
No, I'm going to tell you, but I was asking if you can hear me. It's quite noisy. The second question was, how do you support the startup, these socio-economical startups on the continents that you're going, that you're working with? How do you help them to be of an impact on the ground? To make an impact?
I think that anyway, if you want to have sustainable impact, you need to reinforce the capacity, not only one day during 1 hour. So, for example, when we work with small entrepreneurs in rural area, you provide some entrepreneurship training at the beginning. Okay. You provide some access to loan, access to equipment. But at all, you need to continue to support them, not just for 2 months, but on 1, 2, 3 years. It's the same for the household. If you want to develop awareness, understanding of what is this form of energy, you need to continue. So you have to integrate in your business model the fact that awareness raising, customer relationship management is something very important, not just for the donors and not just for the beginning, the starting time.
Okay, thank you. I'll go with Boel on this question as you're an incubator. So how do you support these startups on the ground?
I agree with Romain. When we support impact entrepreneurs, we know that they take a lot of time to change the ecosystem. So at the beginning, Make Sense Africa only support impact entrepreneurs. So in our call for application, we do research for impact entrepreneurs. After in our programs, what we do is like what Romain said, we give them technical support to increase their knowledge of entrepreneurship, how to run a business, how to measure the impact, how to increase the impact, how to be in relation with the local partners. And after we give them money, a loan, with no guarantee, to help them increase the business model. The fact is, when you are impact entrepreneurs, you take much time to develop your economic base, because in several African countries we have a social economic law but no application of the law. So the impact entrepreneurs have to be more competitive like capitalistic companies, but they don't have the juridical support from all the actors to help them grow their business. So what we do is we support the entrepreneur by his entrepreneurship journey, to give them tools, money, and give him all the tools he needs to be in contact with all the actors of his ecosystem. And after we go and see all the institutional actors and say, okay, in Senegal, in Ivory Coast, in Benin, how we can change the legislation about impact entrepreneurs, how we can change our how we can give them some advantage that will help them in the beginning of the business be competitive as capitalistic companies. Thank you.
Do you see, do you see any will from the local authorities, like the same question with Marion, on how do they get on track on this?
Yeah, in several African countries we had the law. So we have a social, they say, economy, social and solidaire. But the fact is they don't have yet the application of the law. What we do is saying, okay, we can support the institutional actors to this kind of application, because we know the companies, we know the entrepreneurs, and we know how we can change the ecosystem and the market. So in Senegal, where Make Sense Africa is based, we organize some meetings with the ministers. We organize a lot of plaidoyer to talk about it. We don't know. I think maybe with the global economic and social and solidaire forum, maybe something will change at the beginning of the next year. But the fact is, nowadays we have in every country a NAB where impact investors, impact incubators talk together to change the institutional ecosystem. Thank you.
And you have investors on the stage too.
What?
You have investors on the stage too.
Yeah, we work with IOP in Senegal and Teranga Capital to talk about it, and we organize a NAB with several other countries to say, okay, how we can improve and how we can support our ecosystem to grow and to change this ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Bowen. So I'll turn now to the investors with a question about the tools that you are using to implement and to assess the investments you're making in SMEs, impact in SMEs. Samuel, would you want to start?
So in our case, since we are a generalist fund, so one of our first challenges is to be sure that we link these impact assessments along the investment process. So in our case, we have developed what we call an ESG and impact tool. That is just an Excel file, in fact, but just to put some process inside. And during all the different steps that we have for the investment process, we will have an ESG screening and ESG due diligence to do. So a very long checklist of questions that the investment team will have to assess. We will also have an impact scorecard. And since we are talking about access to energy especially, I want to mention that in our case, it will just be one of our pillars, the client dimensions, where we will, of course, in that case, say that it will provide access to an essential goods and services, quite often to the bottom of the pyramid or in a rural area. But sometimes the investment team have been surprised that we can challenge some project because they think that the mission is, of course, very interesting. But then we say in our other pillars, creating decent jobs, African entrepreneurship, genderless investing also. Sometimes some projects can in fact be a bit weak in these other dimensions. So we have it we are looking at it in the investment process, and once we have invested, we have an action plan. And in that case, each year we have a data collection, and again on all the dimensions. So that means all the stakeholders of a company that we are going to look at. So some data linked to employment, some data linked to the clients, of course. In our case, since we invest in several sectors, what we have done is more to do in-depth impact study. So it's not done for all the portfolio company, but just for some examples that we will have. And we have already done it with a company that is providing access to energy. In our case, it helps us to go a bit further, since when you directly survey the clients, you can know what you have changed. In that case, it was access to renewable energy in local markets. So the question was linked to if it has been able to increase the turnover of these small shops, if they have been able to sell during a longer time, if it has bring also a better safety, etc. So it will be more, let's say, a case study when we are able to go deeper when we were talking about methodology.
Thank you, Hélène. With the same question, what kind of tools do you...
Well, it's pretty much similar in a way that as a fund dedicated and specialized in energy, we decided to focus on three main KPIs. That is social and environmental, of course, along with the economical, but this everyone agrees, and we're talking about more social and environmental impact here. So our main KPIs are people benefiting from an access to clean energy, that's the SDG 7. This is the number of jobs created, full-time jobs, and also CO2 mitigated through the renewable energy solution, clean energy solution. So those are the main KPIs. And of course, along, to answer your question, you know, with the globally recognized framework, of course, we work with IRIS, we work with the GOGLA, which is the Global Off-Grid Lighting Association KPIs that is working specifically on subsectors, whether SHS, etc. UNCCC, of course, for CO2 and so on. But then we feel that we also have to work on our own framework, because along with those KPIs, those main three KPIs that allow us to, on a fund level, to be able to give also objectives, and also for investors, we also work on specific KPIs, because, you know, all the subsectors in energy, whether it's productive uses, for example, if you deal with pumping, then you need to know, for example, liters of clean water, or etc., allowing how many acres to be irrigated, or so on. So we also need to work more deeply with each company and each entrepreneur on specific KPIs. And then I'm waiting for your second question.
So your second question will be, what is the degree of criticality of the impact on the investment decisions you make every day?
Yeah, no, it's true that this, as an impact investor, we feel that it's the start. It's impact measurement, or just the intention. The entrepreneur starts with this intention. As you say, all the entrepreneurs we're meeting, they could do so many other things that are maybe easier in a way. So first of all, this is the starting point. If they deal with energy access in emerging countries, it's a pretty bold intention. So that's the first step. But then, okay, so that's where we start from. But then we have to support this impact measurement process through the whole timing. So from the selection of the project, and then, of course, we built like an impact business plan with them, see what's possible. Of course, we come up with the three pretty easy KPIs that I was just mentioning, because that's the starting point, and then we discussed about the more specific ones. And then during the IC committee, then there is, of course, the economical elements and data, but also in terms of impact that is being screened. And then we monitor every trimester with the company and the entrepreneurs and its team to follow the development of those impact KPIs.
Okay. And Samuel, how important is impact on your decisions every day?
Yeah. In fact, it's too bad that the investment team is not here, because they would have been the best to to testify that I love to criticize the project and go a bit more far. So as I have mentioned, we could have a project where we have access to energy, but in our case where it doesn't match our impact thesis in the other pillars. So we have refused several projects, in fact, when it is not aligned with our impact thesis. So it's one of the points. So in that case, if we provide access to energy, but it's led by an expat that is going to do, let's say, digitalize everything and will not create a job, and with almost no women, even if it's access to energy, in our case, we will not be interested by this kind of project. So the impact thesis will be very strong, and we have refused several projects. And I will add, even if the topic of this roundtable is more on impact, I will say that quite often also we refuse projects linked to ESG risks, so meaning more the practices of the company. And sometimes we are so focused on the mission and the final beneficiaries that we forget about employment formalization, about safety at work, about the waste management, etc. And if we feel that the company is not able to handle it, of course, not meaning that they are already doing it perfectly, but just that is willing to do and implement an action plan and have the capacity, so both the skills and the intention to progress on it, for us it can be a red flag, and we are not going to go further. So I mean, it's really embedded in our decisions, and at the end, before to invest, since we need to have the action plan, if we have too many things to do also, it can be difficult to go further.
Okay. Thank you, Samuel. We'll start the discussion with the public. And first and foremost, I think that Christian has spotted the winners of the Digital Energy Challenge, I guess. Or maybe if you spell the name in the microphone, in any case, someone will just pop up. So do you have a question for one of our attendees here?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Thank you, Marlene. Yes, we have some winners in the public, and I have some questions for them. Maybe we'll start with Azimut 360. Yes. We've heard the word impact a lot in your discussion. We will try to see what about this word in the different projects. Azimut, your digital tool will enable a better design of mini grids. Have you already developed a methodology to assess the impact of your project?
Hola. Thanks for the question. In fact, what we are doing currently is what we set as indicators at the beginning of the projects, and usually it's CO2 emissions avoided, jobs created, and also people electrified. But our main challenge is when trying to quantify this is that the projects have an execution time. It can be 18, it can be 24 months, or it can be 4 years. But after those 4 years, we don't have more funds to go there and continue to monitor. And only for those projects where we have, no? No, okay. Should I start again? Okay, so usually we are using the same the indicators that we set at the beginning of the project, which is CO2 emissions avoided, jobs created, or people electrified. But we face two challenges here. One is that after the project, there are no more funds available for us to go to those remote areas where we have done these electrification projects, and only in the case that we have a local partner, which we have a lot of contact, we can continue to collect this data. And another challenge is that connectivity in the remote areas is not reliable. So many times we cannot very easily connect this, like the consumption data. So we will be very happy, to learn from Jerez. When you said that through social businesses, you continue to monitor the impact of the projects, and I think that in Mali it was a mini grid. It would be very interesting, to learn from Jerez about this. And particularly our project, yes, we'll continue to monitor, but because it's a project in partnership with FUNAE, So we are expecting FUNAE to feed the software we will design, to feed the software with socio-economic data, the same socio-economic data that we collect at the beginning of the project, introduce it afterwards so that we can monitor the impact of the electrification of those communities, and then we can better design and better assess the impact of electrification. So happy to learn from Jerez. Roman, thank you.
Thank you. Any reaction from Jerez?
Do you have any reaction, Romain, on the...
Thank you. No, just when I was hearing all the people, finally, first, I think digital tools are really providing data, provide help to measure impact, but it's not enough. It's never enough. As was saying Samuel, on specific topic, you need to make some more investigation, some specific study. And for us, for example, one of the main impacts we are triggering on the project is not just access to energy rates or even income for population, it's how the project will be sustainable on the long term. Meaning that the participative approach is working well. Meaning that the people, they are part of the governance on the long term. So we need, of course, time. And it is something that you can, you can follow it by data, but not only by data. And of course, with some specific local survey in addition, and qualitative also, of course, survey.
Thank you.
Are you happy with the answer?
Yeah, completely agree. But the challenge is how this data comes back to you after 10 years. No, you need to have strong partners in the field that have the resources to do these surveys, and this is always a challenge we face.
No, I don't know in 10 years, but what I know is that, we are an NGO. It's a specific framework. We try to create social business to continue the job, and we try to stay a partner of the social business. As a partner of the social business, we can have an access to those social, environmental, economic data. That's a way to continue to follow it and to be able to learn, of course, to design better our new project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are with Zonke Energy, right? Zonke Energy has a very strong social impact as it targets informal settlements. Have you started quantifying the social impact of your project? Can you introduce yourself before I start?
Sure. I'm going to stand up here. So I'm Alex Densmore with Zonke Energy. We're based in Cape Town, South Africa. And so our focus is affordable, hopefully I don't blow things out here, clean and affordable energy in informal settlements. So these are environments that they're often illegally connected to the grid. Probably about 75% of our clients are illegally connected. So either that or paraffin are their primary alternate sources. So we're really spoiled for choice when it comes to impact metrics. We can look at, obviously, CO2, clean energy produced, jobs created, safety, just how much safer are we making the environment. And so we've looked at, because we have such a strong impact focus, I feel like it's really important that that's part of our story that we're telling, especially when we're looking for investment. Because it's a financial return, but it's a social return as well that we're trying to deliver. But I think there's a tension. There are the obvious ones that are easy with data to collect, like clean energy, megawatt hours produced. I don't even have to think about it. I've got it. But I want to look at, like, we've run entrepreneurship programs with women running refrigerators, and we wanted to know. We ran a project where we financed a refrigerator. We trained them on running a business. But 6 months, as we were just hearing, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months down the line, how are those businesses doing? That's very hard for me to measure, but it's something I would love to know. And then things around like CO2, where you have to understand if I've got an illegal grid connection and I'm displaced. Now in South Africa, the grid is 90% roughly coal. So there is a big CO2 impact if we're displacing that grid. But it's very difficult to measure how much are they no longer using that grid connection that is still in their house, and they're using my solar instead. So these metrics there's this tension between the utility of the metric, the accuracy of the metric, and the ease of collection, and the standard. The other thing is the standardization. The whole point of a metric is to be able to compare across geographies and other situations. So you want to create a metric that is somewhat standardized, so that your partners can then aggregate that. So I guess it's all to say, as a small startup, we've definitely thought about that. But we want to work like organizations like IRIS, or there's the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. I think they have a framework as well. Making sure that we're choosing the right frameworks when we invest in a metric, so that we're delivering information that's valuable to our partners. So we've thought about all of that. We've started on doing some of it, but it's very, embryonic, just getting started.
If I may react, I think there is a tension, and you're right, between, as an investor, supporting a company that is making impact, and I think it is our role to really work along with the entrepreneur to really customize the methodology, put in place the right methodology, as I was saying, according to what you're doing exactly, because it's different. We cannot say in the whole of the energy sector is the same methodology. No. So I feel, as Guy, as an impact investor, we have to work on that, and that's what we are doing with our portfolio companies. And also, so there is this tension between, let's come up with simple KPIs that we can all measure easily. But as I was saying, it's just the beginning. And we also have to go, there is a lot. I mean, the road to perfect impact is still way ahead of us. Because, there is a huge, tremendous. And for example, us as a fund, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a European framework called SFDR. And we want to be Article 9, that is the most compliant in terms of impact measurement. And what we have to do is follow also the principle adverse impact. So there's not only the good impact that you're making on the community, but also, and this is very interesting, the eventual, and they are, of course, adverse impact as well. So you see, there is a lot to see. So for us, it's difficult to speak about impact here on a very broad and global level. Because for me, if we invest in your company, then it's a very precise work that we have to do together to put in place this specific framework and methodology, and then step by step improve it and include more and more elements.
Thank you, Hélène. Go back to Christian, maybe you have a last question.
Let's move to Botswana. We are with a classified project, is that? Yes, same question. Have you already measured your impact and how?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Mumbi, and I'm from Classified Projects. So, can you hear me? Okay. So, right from the get-go, as Classified Projects, we wanted to be a company that not just makes money, but obviously has an impact on the region. We believe that is something that's very critical as we grow as a company. And there are a couple of things that, from our project, which we want to achieve. Now, just a quick summary, our project tries to create efficiency in the grid. And by that efficiency, we're looking at reducing the number of blackouts. Now, this is something which happens a lot, and an increase and prolonged blackouts tend to rise to social problems, such as an increase in crime because everything is off. So those who like to pounce on other people's property tend to enjoy that such periods. And one of the things we also look at with our projects, obviously as we have prolonged blackouts, this is something we experience in the region. What everyone tends to, because everyone wants power. No one wants to be in the dark. You all want to cook your food. So people tend to resort to fossil fuel energy. So that's your diesel, coal, or whatever. Basically, what are we doing? We're increasing pollution. So we hope our project success by creating that efficiency, even if it's 1 or 2%, hopefully should have an impact, a direct impact on the environment, because now I don't need diesel, I don't need coal. So that's one of the matrix we're looking at. And obviously from an economic point of view, we've seen it in our region. When you've got 6 hours, 8 hours of blackouts, how can you operate as a business? So obviously, as an employer, you still need to pay your workers, but no business is being generated. So there are a couple of matrices or KPIs would like to achieve with our project. Definitely measuring them. We have realized it's may not be very easy, but especially the social one, because we can't do it on our own. We would need someone on the ground to work with the police and get as much data. So definitely data is a way to measure, but we need to look into the different KPIs, and definitely would love to work with Gaia Impact and ISP, because, yeah, with your assistance, obviously, and your knowledge, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do you want guys to react on these points? Samuel?
I might. So maybe, in fact, it will not be specific to your case, but to maybe all entrepreneurs. What I find striking when you talk about your project is that, of course, the mission and the interest of the project is quite easy to understand. But what we could expect is to go a bit further and to explain what differentiates you to, let's say, your main competitors. Because when we discuss about impact investors ourselves, what we say is that it's not because we invest in health, in education, or in access to energy that we are impact investors. We need to explain what we do and what we do differently to other financiers that will also sometimes finance education, access to energy, etc. So maybe in your speech, in the KPIs, and it's linked to what you say, to be a bit more specific in some of the KPIs that we look, we could expect to really explain not only what you do, but sometimes what differentiates you to the other competitors, how you do it differently, and of course we expect it to do it with more impact in that case.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have enough time?
Yes, a very last question.
Okay, so maybe in South Africa, we have Victoria Technology. Yes. Same question. Can you introduce your startup, and same question about the impact?
Hi, I'm Nathan Simonis, co-founder of Victoria Technology. We focus on a storage as a service, battery leasing solution for right-sized, scalable mini-grid systems. And the problem that we're trying to tackle is the oversizing, the overcapitalization of mini-grid battery systems, which are often around 30% of the total CapEx of a mini-grid, as well as long-term sustainability of these systems. And so I've heard sustainability, CO2 reduction, jobs created, impact, social impact as goals for the impact panelists on the stage, and likewise, that's what we're focused on. And ultimately, I think the immediate thing that we're trying to measure is how can we reduce the LCOE of systems and the cost-reflective tariff, which, according to many studies from cross-boundary energy access, MECs, et cetera, impact of mini-grids is really dependent on that affordability. And can you power an electric pressure cooker based on that tariff? And so currently what we see is, I think broadly, probably not. But improving the correct right sizing of these batteries for mini-grid systems, addressing the affordability alongside RBFs and other activities going on in the sector, we aim to be partner in that effort to reduce those costs and ultimately the long-term sustainability. So if a battery system dies because of wrong technology choice or environmental factors or other things, is not a whole lot of options to go out and get small loans or other sources of capital to do replacements of battery systems. The ticket size isn't there. So we're trying to become an opportunity for that and ensure that long-term sustainability, affordability, and all of the incumbent impacts that come from that. So that's our goal. How to do it? Good question. We've talked to a lot of mini-grid developers. Connections is the easiest thing to measure, but connections and what does that connection actually mean is very difficult to identify. But a lot of developers haven't, they don't have the resources, staffing or otherwise, to go out and do that sort of thing. So one thing that we're trying to actually explore is how can we, as a cost-efficient method of reaching mini-grids with affordable battery storage technologies, how can we offer that as an incentive to actually work with us to measure impacts? And if we can get the right cost of capital to make it super attractive besides the right sizing, then can we incentivize them to work with us to actually do that measurement in a way that's attractive to investors and demonstrates the impact we're all trying to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you for this very long comment. Do you want guys to add something on on what was just said? Yes, Boel.
What I know is for 3 years now I'm in Senegal, and we do a lot of work to just know what is our impact. Make Sense is known as a organization that links people. So what we do now is to call people. We know that the digital tools is not enough. So what we do is we send first part 10 questions, maybe 5, to ask some KPIs that our financial, our buyer, comment on dit les buyers? That the person who gives us money asks us to just give them these KPIs. But what we do is we call them. And we know that in rural areas, we know that people we are supporting need to have this link to give us the impact. And the other thing I want to say also is impact is not the immediate thing. What you have is result. So you have to take time to measure this impact and to measure it for long years to see how your project, how your company change the link between people, how this changes the ecosystem. And for that you just have to take time and to also choose what is the KPIs you want to see for the next 10 years maybe. Thank you.
Like, while you're holding the mic, I'll start the conclusions with you. Maybe you can give us a few words on what is the output of these discussions and what you've learned about the questions in the public and the interactions with your fellow speakers today.
Yes, I truly believe that we need to have social or environmental impact to face our development issues in Africa. For me, it's not we don't have another way to change our economic challenge, and we need to have companies that combine social impact, environmental impact, and economic performance. So keep going and just try to go further in your reflection in your companies, and don't just say, okay, I have a social impact and it's the end. Take your time, have action plan, and talk to all the actors of the ecosystem to know how you can build together answers to face these social and environmental issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Boel. Marion, will you have a few words to conclude?
Yes, I think 2 things I get from this discussion. First is data is not only about quantitative, and very often you say, I can't get any data because it's not about how many percent, etc., etc. But qualitative is data as well. You just need to have a methodology to compare those qualitative data so that it's not a mess and it's not like I can't say what is best and worst, but still it's data and it can be actioned on your projects and collected along the way. Second thing is data collection must be something that is included within, like for each partners of the chain, like the market where you are involved. It's not only about you, but you're right, we need to engage partners on the ground, we need to engage public authorities. It must be something that we find a way so that everyone tries to collect the data, the information at each stages of the product development or project development. I think that's the two key takeaways I would.
Thank you, Mario. Romain, a few words from you.
Okay. So for me, I mean, for all of us, digital tools make change to impact measuring, for sure. If we do it, it's because we need to prove to investors, to donors, why we need to do it. But maybe the main reason for me is not that. The main reason is because if we know exactly what is happening, what is the transformation on the field, we are better skilled to answer this question. So the main reason for us to use this digital tool and to push for impact measurement is really to improve our value proposition.
Yeah. Sure. Hey, Hélène.
Wow, it's difficult to make a quick conclusion because it's just an opening to all what we have to do. I just want to speak about partnership because that's the way we work at Gaia, and this is our mindset. It is not us as investor overlooking a company and an entrepreneur saying, okay, what are your KPIs? It's just really a matter of working together on the methodology and building up this path to a better valuation of what you're saying. I totally agree. Impact is really long-term. So it's a long-term partnership. And along the way, we measure effects and we try to, to make things more efficient. But it's a long-term business, adventure, partnership.
Samuel.
If I have a last word to conclude, I will say that you be ambitious. In fact, it's because the market is really evolving and sometimes we don't have it in mind. Now, traditional investors and any listed company, for example, will have to do extra financial reports. So they will say in their reports that they create jobs. So in fact, the requirements that we are going to have on more social companies or inclusive company or any word that you want, in fact, is really growing. And we have to keep it in mind that what could be expected a few years ago is evolving and that now more topics need to be covered, gender, harassment, waste management, etc., that were not required a few years ago. So that means that when you think about a project, a company, we need to think the impact more broadly and the practices also more broadly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to you guys for this very interesting conversation. A big applause for them. Thank you. And I hope you'll be able to merge with all the rest of the audience and continue the discussions. You still have the whole afternoon for that. And thank you. Thank you for